Hello, welcome to another PlayBASIC live video. Today we'll look at a common issue about how to get started with your programming, and that's where can I find tutorials, where can I find source codes, where can I get some, find other people who are like-minded. And for PlayBASIC, well, first of all, you can head across to the website. Very simple website. Hopefully those things are pretty well easy to find. We have a tutorial section over here, a left hand menu down the side there. It's all pretty basic looking stuff, but there's a real decent information in here tucked away. I've got some video tutorials which you can go and watch on YouTube, of course, just like this one you're watching now. Well, you're probably watching a little bit of it and then skipping over the rest of it. That's cool. Tutorials about certain, real programming fundamentals. There's a bunch of stuff in there. You can kind of search through it, find stuff that's for beginners and stuff that's about the IDE or certain commands or loops or those things, or by particular authors. Okay, that's one place for tutorials, but there's also a whole section of the tutorials, or our tutorials, that are on the forums. That's across on underwear design, which I've already got open over here. If you're not sure how to get there, by the way, you can go up here to community and just hit the underwear design button there, and it takes you to the forum. You'll need to sign up. Just name and email address, that's about all you need. You can browse the resource section without signing up, but there's actually a whole bunch more that's available if you are a member, obviously. So the PlayBASIC area of our forum is down here. You can see about 2/3 of the available forums. There's other stuff that's invisible. There's more. The more active you are, the more things that become available to you. So under this heading down here, we have resources. So that has a bunch of sub forums here, which has a source code forum, which is just purely for people dropping their source codes off. Most of those you'll find there will be, often they're things you can cut and paste from the web page into PlayBASIC and then just run them. You might have to modify them sometimes, but generally that's the case. And occasionally you'll find much bigger examples as well. We can have a tutorial section, and it has its own board here, which is called Basic Programming for Beginners. Open that in another tab, which is very handy in itself. This is actually a pretty busy section. What you want to do if you're coming to this particular part of the board is go to the very first post, and this is like the index for all of these different sections. So it takes the beginner through learning some variables, learning some arrays, learning some math operators, rational operators, if-then conditions, etc. That's in the first tutorial. We go through, do some more looping structures here, move on to some graphical things towards. And the further down through these articles that you progress, the more challenging they get. So pretty much it's well worth taking a look at. I didn't write this one. It's actually written by a guy called TDK Man, way back in the day, and he's let us put it up here. So big shout out to TDK if he's still around, the whole basic scene. This was posted in 2008, so 10 years ago. Still here, still very simple information, but a good place to get started. We'll go back to the resource section anyway. We'll go to our tutorial board under our resources board here. you'll notice that it's not showing shows just the member here, and you can't see everything about the post. That's because we're not logged in at the moment. So non-members can't download any attachments, or you can view pictures, but that's about it, and watch some videos. This forum here is a bit random. There's a bit of you find a bit of everything in here. Look through some of the thread titles. We've got economizing image splitting, which I think these days has migrated its way into the help files. It has a different name in the help files. It's probably under the images tutorial. There's a lot about getting the most effective use of the hardware accelerated rendering, as well as giving some tips on different draw modes and how they have impact on performance. I've got a thread here about the tips on safe resource management, which is, I think it's one of those ones that people sort of get lost a little bit about. There's that you've got to make a game and you've got to have sprites in it. You want to have maps and images. You want to after a while you think, well, how am I going to control 50 different sprites, and how am I going to remember all the different variables? And there's different strategies here for doing that. These are examples of the cut and paste code. You can just grab that fragment there and paste it into PlayBASIC, and hopefully it will do something. But you really, it's a good idea to read through this stuff here and just take your time, and there's no rush. Some other ideas here. We've got a thread on how to improve my game's visuals, which is probably, okay, this is back in 2012, so 6 years ago. When I tend to write these things, I write them as like an FAQ, because they tend to, most of these really came from questions that you would get a lot. So after a while you think, well, geez, if it's asked that frequently, then hey, I'll just make something up that people can refer to and get some assistance that way. There's a bit of stuff in this one. Other ones there, we've got programming video games, understanding motion, myths about BASIC, object management, character life cycles, introduction to animation, a tutorial about how the IDE works. I've forgotten what's in this now, but we'll have a look at it. Yeah, okay, this is quite a sort of more in-depth version of it. This is actually talking about how PB project files are made up. If you want to make your own preprocessor tool or or your own IDE for PlayBASIC, this is what you would come and look at. When I wrote a replacement IDE project as a query, really, I use this same thread. So I've given examples there on actually how to phrase certain files in PlayBASIC code. So the assumption is that you can read PlayBASIC. I think it's kind of pointless giving people examples of other languages when you're in a PB forum. It's sort of a bit silly. Apologise for the mic sort of hit there. Okay, that's a thread about understanding the IDE, not necessarily from the user's perspective, but learning how to integrate the IDE into something else. Tips on making platform games by Tommy, Q, ideas, tutorials, and this is a bigger thread that I've referenced a lot across the forums, and it's another one of those ones that's a compilation of these kind of common subjects. How to use draw modes, ideas about, lowering the cost of your rendering. Now, sometimes they're quite obvious, but unfortunately people seem to neglect them. I've already made videos about this particular thread already, so we'll sort of browse over that. You can find that on the channel here somewhere. I'm not quite sure what the name is off the top of my head. Simple code profiling stuff. It's Space Invader tutorials down the bottom there. So there's a fair bit of stuff here that you can pick up and go with. We've got an IDE tutorial. I think this one here is actually how to use the IDE, which is what I thought the other thread was all about. Yes, getting started. So it's kind of hidden away down here. We've got some helper icons here as well. A bit of a refresher. Very handy to have a look at this stuff. There is a section of this in the PBZone help system. You'll find it under the help logo here. I just grab PB. If you go to help and you want help on the IDE, there's IDE help or this PlayBASIC reference. IDE help talks about just the editing tool itself. Okay. And the other one is the command sets that are in PlayBASIC. Depending on what version of PlayBASIC you have, you'll have a different set of command sets that are in your help files here. Let's go back to the forums. So a bit of stuff there. There's a few videos there you might want to check out. They tend to be quite short and to the point, and you don't even have to listen to me ramble on, which is very good, because no one wants to listen to me ramble on, and I do ramble a lot. Okay, so other threads in this tutorial section here. We've got the one about handling more than one object, so another take on having multiple characters in your game and how you would go about managing them and managing their life cycle. So most characters all characters in your game will really have 3 different states. They'll have creation state, some sort of movement state or a live state, and then they'll have a death state. So we need some concept of how we're going to create them, how we're going to manage them when they're alive, and when they do die, how will we clean up after them. There's another one here on timer-based movement. What is that? 2007. Oh, okay. Oh, that's right. You might not be aware, but there's different ways of setting up your inner loops and how you manage movement in general. And this is a document referring to how you could manage all of the movements in your game based on how much time has elapsed between when one frame is drawn and the next. And that actually does a really cool thing, is it will make your game run pretty much at the same speed for everyone playing it. So whereas if you update the screen based on how fast the computer running the game can run the main loop, then it will run different for different people. Something to think about, and the tutorial's there for you to have a look at if you want. We've got a buffer locking thread, which I'm pretty sure is in the documentation these days. Something about goto. Yeah, okay. Goto is one of those very, very touchy subjects with people. They just, the mere mention of it and they have a hissy fit. You know, I think it comes from, sometimes it's kind of a perpetuated myth about it. It's a bit like some of the myths about BASIC in general. I guess that's a different subject, but some people do use it poorly. I'm not saying they don't. They do really use it very poorly, but it has its place. You know, the reason why it's still in BASIC is it just has its own place. It does get you out of those places where you would otherwise have to refactor something, and possibly the refactored code would be performing worse. Depends on your dialect of BASIC and what problem you're solving, and as to where you would bother or not. Yeah, in code that's very performant, that's dependent upon very, very tight inner loops for lots of processing sort of stuff, then yeah, it probably makes sense to structure the code in the most optimal form without it becoming unreadable. There's a borderline in there somewhere, you know. Often the code that's the easiest to read and it looks the most elegant is the slowest. Not always true, but yeah, can be. Getting back to our tutorials anyway. Got something about encryption here. I've got something about the bleed image command. Got some linear searching, some stacked data structures, moving objects between 2 points, tutorials coming to grips with commands, a Pong game tutorial, a click the circle game, very basic one. The bottom there is called the Very Basics Volume 1. I don't know if there's a Volume 2 or not. Who knows? Well, this is so old. This is 2005. So if you want to know how old PlayBASIC is, it's one of the oldest basics around now that's actually still being developed. We're just not trying to be a commercial entity. That's the only difference. We're just over that. It's a waste of time. They've got an article here about arrays. Wow, this is going back to March 2004. I think PB was released sometime in 2003, or maybe early 2004. So yes, a lot of old data there. But I'll just reiterate myself. Let's go. So if you want to find the section on tutorials on our forums are over here at Underwear Design/forums, and head down to the PlayBASIC section. Head down to the resource part here, and you'll see down here, you'll see tutorials under here, or you can just go to resources and find the tutorials there. Alright, I better go. So thanks for watching. I'll see you later. Bye.